Hello everyone, so today I will be discussing about high key lighting. So let us first define if what is high key lighting. High key lighting is a lighting technique that uses unnaturally bright lighting to blow out most or all harsh shadows in an image. It was actually originally used for broadcast television and now used to describe photos that are bright with overexposed background. So when and where do we use high key lighting? As I have mentioned earlier, it was originally invented for films and television and for model photography as well. That's why, if you will actually notice, a lot of beauty campaigns or advertisements, they use this technique to emphasize the beauty of the model, which makes a product advertisement more effective, which goes down to effectivity of this technique for product photography as well. Because psychologically speaking, a product on white background suggests high quality in nature, and it could also be used as an artistic decision or style because, for example, a photographer wants to impose a beautiful or a funny or a light-hearted nature of the photograph. High key lighting is a to-go technique to effectively portray the moods mentioned earlier. Let us discuss this time how high key lighting is done. So there are a lot of ways that you can find online on how to do a high key lighting, but I will only enumerate the two most common ones in this report. The first one is in a studio. So for a studio setup, we have some equipment that we will need as listed on this slide. I also have attached a photo of my studio setup that I used in capturing the high key photos that I will show later. So what are the equipment? The first one is a large key light. The second one are two background lights, which are 1.5 to 2 stops brighter than our key light. So why do they need to be 1.5 to 2 stops brighter than our key light? This is to eliminate all the shadows and to evenly lit our background, or else we will be producing an off-white or a gray color in our finished shot. The third one is a reflector, but this is only optional. A reflector is normally just used to lighten the shadow under your subject's chin. And the fourth one is a handheld light meter just to properly gauge our lights. And the last one is a white backdrop. So this is how I started my shoot. I initially metered my lights, and my key light was on f8 and the background lights were f16. And I also took photos of my model with and without a reflector so you guys could see the difference a reflector could make. So here you could see three photos, all taken for comparison. And the first image was taken with the same key light reading but less powerful background lights. And as you can see, the background is a bit off-white. That's why we always want our background lights brighter than our key lights. The second photo is a high key photo without a reflector. You could notice the shadow under his chin. And the third one was taken with a reflector, and you could see the difference from our second image. They're actually both technically acceptable, it's just really a matter of personal preference. The second way to achieving high key lighting is doing it outdoors. And outdoor high key photos can be achieved in so many ways. I have also included here a list of the equipment that you might want to consider using when you go out and take photos for high key. And I also wrote here steps that you can follow, but I just want to remind everybody that these are actually not rules and you can break them or you can use pretty much whatever steps you know in taking high key. It's really all up to you. So the first one is choose a non-distracting background. It's the same principle as having a white background in a studio setup because you want your viewers to pretty much have their focus on your subject. The second one is overexpose the background by 1 to 2 stops. Same principle as well as having your background lights 2 stops, 1 to 2 stops more powerful than your key light. And number three is take a photo. And the fourth one is check the histogram, which I will be discussing on the next slide further. These two photos that I have included here are actually photos that I've taken last year. So the goal before was just to take high key photos. I didn't really have like these steps that I followed before, but I just asked my model before to just face the sun to give me those highlights, and then I just metered his face to get my desired exposure. It was pretty much a trial and error, so don't be afraid to make mistakes and just go out and do whatever you guys think is the best way to take high key photos. As I have mentioned on the previous slide, checking your histogram is very important after you take a high key photo. So why is it important? Because normally in a properly exposed photo, histogram is in the middle and has no clippings, but with high key, the histogram is actually pushed to the right side of the scale. And you might also experience clippings. That means you actually lost a lot of details on your highlights, but that is totally normal and fine with high key photos. Because if you guys could also remember, I have mentioned earlier that it is an artistic decision that you make for the aesthetic that you're after. One of the most challenging things with Heike is photographing people with darker skin. It is a lot easier to photograph them if they wear dark colored clothes because you can easily just open up your aperture to compensate with the light lost by their skin or clothing absorption. So the problem arises when your subject with darker skin tone wears a white dress or a shirt because you don't want them to look like properly exposed or slightly overexposed, and the dress is as bright as the sun because it's gonna look so funny and weird, and you're gonna make them look like a floating head. So the solution to this problem is actually to provide a bigger light source, or if you are outdoors, a diffuser will do. And what it does is a bigger light source will cover a bigger area of family of angles that causes direct reflection. I know it's too technical, but just in case you guys face this problem in the future, just remember to provide a bigger light source or a diffuser. The photo that I provided here was actually a photo for my very first final portfolio when I was in first year, and I used a medium softbox because initially I planned to photograph everybody with different skin tones with the same exposure, but it didn't work because a lot of people with darker skin tones had been so exposed badly. So when I used a medium softbox and I properly exposed them, that actually solved the problem. The task for you guys is to create a high key image using artificial or natural light. And as I have mentioned earlier, we don't have certain rules that you have to follow, but it might help for you guys to follow the steps that we have provided earlier. And I hope you guys enjoy shooting and stay safe.